Alright, hello everybody. You're going to get a twofer this month. So you guys know my recent affinity with craft fur. I guess you could say in the last 10 years it's become one of my favorite synthetics. I've had a fly that's kind of gone through a bunch of different paces in terms of revisions and the dumpster. And I've since kind of adopted the fact that I think I like natural eyes on mine. So we're going to tie pretty much this fly right here today. There's a couple slight nuances and things that changed in it, not much, I think for the better, although I've caught just as many fish on the version of this with no eyes. So today we're going to tie this one, and then we're going to do the single version in another video, but there's some things there. This month's tying newsletter, I talk about using craft fur. So with no further ado, we're going to start out with an Arex TP610. This is a size 1 in the vise. The front hook is going to be a 1/0. You can scale this down, a 2 and a 1, a 2 and a 4, and I'll talk about that as we go in terms of making your proportions right. So we're going to start with our tail section. You can use whatever thread you like. I've been actually using some of this Semperfli Nano Silk, which I really dig, but I'm going to use a Vivas today. We're going to make this one in kind of like a barred olive over white configuration. So I'm just going to start with my thread right at the hook eye and go just to a point right where the bend starts. First thing I'm going to do, kind of highlighting a product here. So, you know, I use craft fur from Hairline, Semperfli, and now this Fulling Mill stuff, which I'm going to be honest with you, this is probably the best craft fur on the planet right now, in my humble opinion, just because they give you quite a bit. It's a freaking 8 by 8 inch square, and this stuff is super long. It's fantastic. So I'm going to go in, because I want this tail rather white, I'm going to cut myself a generous clump. So I go right in. I like to use these big Enrico scissors. They're fantastic for synthetics. But you could use actually a pair of like Fiskars or any of that kind of stuff. So I go in and I'm going to cut a pretty generous clump. You can see there's a ton of underfur in there. So you're going to take your flea comb, go in with your flea comb, just comb that stuff right out and just discard it. Comb out as much as you possibly can. Then you're going to measure your tail. I want a good amount in here, because otherwise if you don't use enough, the tail's going to kind of just drown out. And then once I look at how long I want it, pretty happy with it there, I'm just going to come in with those same scissors. You want sharp ones. And I'm going to cut that flush, because I'm going to cover all that. First things first, we're going to take 1, 2 loose pinch wraps and then pull down on it. 3, 4, 5, and then what we're going to do next, and I've cut, this is a little too long, but that's okay, we're just going to cover it. We're going to do open spiral wraps right up to the hook eye, and then we're going to tightly work our way back, just like you see here, right to the base. If you got any of these kicking in here, no worries, just cut them right out. Now, craft fur has a tendency to foul, so what I like to do is I like to post it. So we're going to pull this up, take 1, 2 turns under, and then we're going to go right around the base of the bundle with 4 turns, just like you're posting a parachute. 3, 4. Boom. And that's going to post it right there. That's not going to foul. Now, the next thing I'm going to use, this is just going to be my filler flash for the underbody. I've really grown fond of this stuff. I'm actually subbing it in a lot now in regards to, instead of using like flash brushes or ice dub. This Spectrum Glimmer Chenille is pretty cool stuff. So I've already cut myself a section of that. Same thing, this is the pearl. You could use the olive too. I want to make sure I tie it in so that the fibers are laying backwards. Just going to trim a little bit off there. Cover up those loose butt ends. Put a 1/2 inch there. You could wrap this by hand or do your rotary function. I'm going to wrap it by hand. For this tail section, I want these wraps to be open moving forward. I don't want it really dense. I just want a little bit of flash because I want less mass towards the tail and more up towards the front, as you'll see here shortly. And then I'm just going to kind of wrap right over those butt ends. Next thing I'm going to do, just to alleviate any trapped fibers, you can go in here like this and just kind of pull them out. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use an olive and tan craft fur brush. This is just to give me a little bit of base here. I've already got one that's a little banged up. This is an EP product, but Fulling Mills is actually doing the same brushes now. Pretty good bang for your buck. So, just going to pull those fibers rearward. We're going to take about 3, maybe 4 turns. As you're doing that, just kind of comb some of it out. Take your scissors, go in right like so. Get right down to the wire. 2, 3 wraps, 3 in front. Grab your bad pair of scissors. And so what I've done, this is an old beat up pair of Renomes. I've wrote them in red, so red is dead. Green means go. That's how I know they're good. And I'm just gonna wrap a little bit over that. Now I'm gonna take my second batch. This stuff's amazing. I've already cut quite a bit off of here, but this is the barred olive variation of that same salty craft fur. You don't need a lot for this because this is the rear section, so I'm going to go in and cut about probably a quarter of what I used for the tail. And you'll see there's not a lot of long stuff in here. There's a lot of shorter underfibers, but I want some of that olive in there. Just want just enough speckling in there to give me a topper that goes into my tail a little bit. So I'm going to cut that, boom, right there. And I'm going to reverse it. I always try to reverse tie my clumps of craft fur in like this. That way it'll ensure that it's not going to fall out. Gives it a little bit more durability. And just like I do in all my fox patterns, I'm going to fold that rearward, as you see here. Lock it off. And of course, my furnace kicks in, which is good timing because I'm about to start the front half. So I've done that. I apologize for the background noise. Put a little bit of that on there. You see here. If you got any stray fibers that are kicking off, I use a cautery tool. Just get them out of the way. I've already pre-cut my section of wire. Pull it. I'm going to use a red bead on this, but you're more than welcome to use white. I like a little bit of red in the middle. And then I'm going to set that aside. What you can do is what I often do with some of these, just so I have a little bit of a darkness or slight color change in the tail. I take a Sharpie and I lay the tail out on a piece of paper and I hit it with a Sharpie. And then let it sit off to the side. Because if you look at a lot of flies, or lures rather, or bait fish, they might have a darker tail. So that's kind of what I do there. Then I set it aside. Okay, sorry about that background noise. So now we got our front hook, which is a 1/0 TP610. I'm going to start my thread, same thing, right at the eye, work it right back to about where the barb, halfway between the barb and the point, excuse me, is. I'm going to grab our tail section, fix the wire right to the top of the hook. It's a little long, always cut it long sometimes, it's alright. So once I get a few turns on there, I take my red is dead scissors or wire cutters, come right in here, cut it off. way back. Like this little tip, I learned this from my buddy Eric, or Matt Grayuski. Lift up under it. That's pretty nifty. I like it. I've actually incorporated it. So hey Matt, thanks for that one. All the way forward, all the way back, right to where our thread starts. And then, just to keep this out of the way, I'm going to use my little silicone jobber there. Lock that hook right in. Now, the collar that I use on this, I go right back to that EP craft fur brush, or the one that you use from Fulling Mill. This is just to kind of cover up that middle section there. I'm only going to take a couple turns on it. So 1, 2. I kind of brush it out as I go. You want just enough to cover that up. You don't need a lot. 2, 3 over, 3 in front. Right as dead scissors, trim it off, break the barb down. I kind of go back on it a little bit, so it's just kind of a bit of a filler. Then I'm going to go back and get that Spectrum Glimmer Chenille. This time when I tie it in and wrap it, I want tight consecutive wraps. And you're going to see I'm going to stop my thread probably about, I don't know, what's that, 1/3 of the shank back from the eye. Brush it back. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Put over the butt ends and good to go. Now, because this is a 2-part fly, I need to have 2 different colors of, I'm going to have a pale belly and a speckled top with some barring. So I'm going to start with that first. I'm going to go in, I'm going to cut about half of what I would need for this wing. Come in, same thing with my flea comb once again. Brush out all that under fur. Want that to kind of bleed back into the rear. And remember, I'm going to reverse tie this. We're going to build a cone. If you remember on the original dumpsters, I put a spreader cone in there. That's kind of sparse. I could use a little bit more, so I'm going to take some more out. The speckled stuff has a tendency to have more of the olive shorter fibers and less of the barred longer fibers. You'll see here. So same thing, I'm going to cut that. Invert it back again. Just want to make sure I have enough in there. There we go. And I take my thumb and my pointer finger, my strong hand, just to kind of distribute that so I know it's at least around the upper part. I'll get rid of that. Go back to my white. Cut a decent section of white out of here. It's nice looking stuff. Put that over here out of the way. Comb out that under fur. Now, the key to this, you always want your belly to be shorter than the top wing. So I'm going to cut this shorter. You'll see why. Reverse it. Place it right there. My first 2 wraps are going to be kind of light. And I'm going to take my thumb, my pointer finger once again and push down on it. And that's going to kind of put it in space and distribute it around. I want to still make sure that I've got plenty of room there so you can pull your fiber through the eye and see what you got. Your eye, we want to make a good sized collar here though, because we're going to fold this back on itself. But before I do that, if I were to just tie this now, I think I've shown you this in the past, this is just going to collapse upon itself. So I want to build something in there that's going to give me some support. So I'm going to take some Zap-A-Gap, and on those butt ends of that craft fur, which is kind of shaped like a cone, I'm just going to put that on there. Once I've done that, then I'm going to use some kicker, which is this is an accelerator, and I'm going to spray both sides of it. Wait a couple seconds, you can see it bubbling, and then you can dictate how you want that shape to go. So if I don't want to have a full 360-degree cone, but I want a good top and bottom profile, I kind of push on the side while that stuff's curing, and that's going to give me the shape that I'm looking for. Next thing you need to do, now I got to find it. Ah, there it is. This is just my reverse pushing tool. I use a piece of clear tubing. I'm going to take those fibers of craft fur and I'm going to push them backwards over themselves, as you see here. Work my thread through it. Take a few turns on that, just to kind of cover that up. Spread that stuff out. You can brush that a little bit. You can see I got a nice broad profile on there. And I can advance my thread down to here. Next thing I'm going to do is, you can, and I'm going to tie this in now because I'm going to be building a thread cone here, but you could use, one of those minnow brushes. You could use an EP streamer brush, which I use a lot. But I'm actually going to use, these are pretty interesting, these new Fulling Mill Salty Flash brushes. This is the 2-inch long one. I really like the fact that they're in the game now with some of this stuff, because they're actually making some great materials and the price is right. So you get 5 brushes for almost half of what it costs to get 6 EP brushes. Not to knock the EP ones because they're fantastic, but sometimes it's all about the money, right? So down to the wire. I'm going to tie this in on the near side. This is going to make up the bulk of my head here, as you'll see. And I'm just going to build a tapered thread cone, almost like a ramp. This is also going to help in pushing water when this fly is fished and making it swim and undulate. And then this is easy. These brushes are rather full, so you're probably only going to need a couple turns, believe it or not. So I've done that. Get down to the bare wire. Once, twice, 3 times over. 1, 2, 3 in front. Take my red as dead scissors. Cut the wire. Take your edge of your scissors and just kind of flatten that burr out. Start building a little bit of a thread head. I'm going to put a 1/2 inch on here because I'm going to use some tab eyes for these now. Before I do that though, I'm going to brush this out. Now, the eyes thing is totally up to you. You could just glue some of these super pearls on there. I like flat tape eyes a lot, like these right here. But I'm actually going to use some 6mm Pro Sport Fisher tabbed eyes. Now, I really like the way these look, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about these because they will have a tendency, if you don't do some stuff to them, to tear out. So, I'm going to tie the nearest one in first. And I leave roughly that much of the tab facing forward towards the eye when I tie these in. I want it right along the side. Now the back of these have an adhesive on them, which helps. It'll keep it in place. So I'll take 1, 2, 3 turns there. It's kind of locked in place for now. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the eye on the near side closest to me. So I got it in place. I'm going to just stick it right to the side. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to take and fold over that tab on both. So I'll do one on that one. Take my thumbnail or my scissors. Fold right over that guy. There we go. Build a nice neat thread head, which you'll see here. And a nice neat tapered thread cone. Tie that off. Be done with it. And then I'm going to take just a little bit of bone dry resin just to lock in those thread wraps a little tight. Hit it with a torch. You could leave it like that, but I will warn you. These are on paper with an adhesive back, so there's a high probability they might tear out. So what I like to do to just kind of add a little bit to them, and I like there's that little bit of flash in the front. So I'm going to take some thin or medium viscosity resin. This is Solaris Thin. I'm just going to coat right over the eyes, go right over those thread wraps. Come back to the other side, do the same thing. Just like you see here. Level it out a little bit. Work my way with my torch right around it. And then let that cure a sec. Hit each side a little longer just to make sure it's in there. It's locked in. And then to alleviate any bit of tack, I'll just put another thin layer of bone dry on top of that. That way you never have to really worry about any tack on there. Or you could hit it with regular head cement. And there you go. Now you got yourself a nice little dumpster dinner 2.0 with a crazy colored up tail on it. And a nice fly that's going to push some serious water and swim like a bait fish. And there's not a lot to this. I can throw this size fly, and this is a 5-inch one. I'll tie them between 3 and 5 inches on these, sometimes up to 6 or 7. You can throw this on like a really, really light rod, believe it or not. The nice thing is you can kind of see from the front what that head kind of looks like. His eyes are separated. And you got a nice simple little bait fish here. If you can only use one hook, you can always omit the second hook and use a shank. That's a dumpster 2.0. Keep your eyes peeled on this one. MFC might be dropping this one sometime in the next year or two. We've kind of been working it out. But in the meantime, tie some for yourself. And check it out. I'm going to do the single version of this one next.